Hi, gorgeous, and welcome to the Confident, Energized, and Sexy Mama Show. I am Dorit Palvanov, your host, feminine energy expert, health coach for women, registered holistic nutritionist, and the creator of the groundbreaking health and mindset program for moms, Energized, designed for perimenopausal women who are done having kids and are ready to get their confidence, energy, and sexy back. Ladies, think about it. What would the world look like if, as women, we stopped being so harsh on ourselves and instead felt more energized, powerful, confident, and more connected to our bodies? What if, as women, we honored the fact that we are built and wired differently than men, and being different does not mean being inferior? That the go, go, go mentality, alongside doing more to have more without ever pausing and resting, only leads to chronic stress, anxiety, burnout, overwhelm, lack of joy, and corrodes our health, relationships, and vitality. What if, as women, wives, and mothers, we had the courage and confidence to desire more? More freedom, power, energy, joy, abundance, pleasure, fun, play, and sex, all on our own terms. Mama, you deserve to feel good. You deserve to form healthy relationships, and your body needs, craves, and deserves pleasure. This is your birthright. You're here because you believe in your feminine energy. You're here because you care about health and the environment, and you're not afraid to take action and change. You're here because you don't want to pass on a pattern of self destruction, hiding, and not speaking your truth to your daughters. You're here because you're done feeling stuck, living a mediocre life as a half woman. You're here because you are done struggling and, frankly, can no longer afford to feel like crap. Each week, I will be here for you, dropping a healthy dose of inspiration and motivation, as well as introducing you to my brilliant guests, where we will dive deep into all things womanhood, feminine power, energy, psychology, holistic and alternative health, food, nutrition, hormones, fitness, mindset, motherhood, relationships, sex, business, and much more. So, Mama, are you ready to take back control of your health? Let's do this. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Confident, Energized, and Sexy Mama podcast. This is Dorit Palvanov, your host. Whew, it took me some time, oh my goodness, to find the space to record this episode for you finally. I'm in my daughter's bedroom. And hopefully the kids are occupied enough to not interrupt so that mommy can get her work done. Ladies, today's episode is by far, I know I'm saying this for about every interview because I truly love all of my guests, and I'm bringing them because it is such a pleasure to me. And I'm also so excited to share my resources with you. But today's episode is someone who I've been really, I've worked really hard to bring her on. She is one of the world's leaders in all things, understanding the differences between men and women, the genders, and how psychologically we are wired differently. She's an author, she's a speaker, she has amazing resources, courses and books and online resources and videos, all geared to help us understand each other. It helps us to understand ourselves as women, it helps us to understand men, and vice versa. Alison Armstrong, she's my guest today, and she is like, to explain to you how big she is the person who had taught Tony Robbins' son all about relationships. And even though Alison didn't mention it on the episode, but I believe that Tony Robbins is her student as well. So she is huge in the personal development world. And I'm so excited and so honored to be able to have this conversation with her and, of course, to share it with you. It is an extremely important and an absolute must conversation for every woman who's struggling, feeling unsupported, alone, forgotten, and unappreciated, always in general, and especially during the COVID-19 pandemic. We are home with our partners and kids more than ever now. And especially now, it is crucial to understand how men are built psychologically and how they think, so that we can get the help and the help that we need while supporting each other's needs. I personally have used this language, these ideas, these practices to communicate with my husband my need for alone time, my need for a clean kitchen. At the end of the day, I also got him to load the dishwasher and remember to turn it on. I know these are like silly things, but they seem little and insignificant in a man's head, but to us women, they are insurmountable in their effect and magnitude. So today's episode will help you to begin this conversation with your partner and hopefully alleviate some of the current stress, arguments, nagging, begging, and this constant bickering, which causes so much destruction and disconnection instead of connecting during such challenging times. Right now, we need each other more than ever. So let's make this a productive and effective time. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about Alison, and this is in her own words. I'm passionate about partnership. I want to know everything about this paradigm, this magic that can happen between people. What makes a partnership possible? What makes one brilliant? What destroys a partnership? What expands the power of partnership? Everything I study and distinguish is to give greater access to the phenomena of partnership. This is why I have spent so much time on male, female, and the masculine-feminine dynamics, the misunderstandings and misinterpretations between testosterone-based and estrogen-based creatures, usually known as men and women, but not always. They devastate lives, destroy family, and put our demands of love and fulfillment out of reach. And that's just in the personal romantic domain. Apply these misconceptions to education, work, and community, and the real consequences of fundamentally not understanding each other are exponentially worse. Alison is a sought-after speaker in the areas of gender differences, well-being, empowerment, sexuality, and relationships. In 1994, her personal compulsion to understand men converged with her personal and professional commitment to children. She realized one of the best ways she can help children is by altering the way their parents relate to each other. By shifting those relationships from the adversarial context we inherited to the partnerships that are now possible, parents can create home environments in which their children flourish. And this is so true. Alison continued, "We received wedding announcements and baby pictures with thank you notes saying, 'This wouldn't have been possible without your work.' And I think they're wonderful. But I'm moved to tears when I hear about a family that was restored, or a divorce that was prevented." So this is how impactful this work is, and I'm so excited for you to listen to today's episode. So here are some of the highlights. First, as always, I get my guests to share their story behind their work. So she shared the story and how she began studying men, which she in the beginning started as a 2 months research, and then it led to 30 years of exploration, research, study, speaking, and writing books about the differences between men and women. Alison's definition of the Queen's Code, it's the book that she had written, and I highly, highly, highly encourage you to read this book. You can find it on Amazon. It's available as an ebook. Uh, so we talked about the definition of the Queen's Code, and I asked her this question: if the majority of the book is about understanding men, why isn't it called the King's Code? And so, why is my identity as a queen wrapped around figuring out his kingship first, right? And so this is an important one, so pay attention. Also, we talked about what am I doing wrong that turns my man into a frog. What happens when women give up the right to emasculate men? How much of this work is rooted in the Bible and scripture and God's design of men and women? She also shared her beautiful story of Adam and Eve as inspiring characters in her work. She talked about what is productive resistance. It's a very interesting and important concept for us women to know and understand about our roles and our job in a man's life. We talked about female and male hormones and how they affect our feelings and emotions and hunters and gatherers. We talked about why it is so difficult to be home with our men all the time during quarantine. Oh my gosh, it is hard. We talked about why don't men understand about women and what don't women understand about themselves. And you guys know, I always talk about the fact that for us to get our needs met, we need to first understand ourselves. We talked about why understanding that men get gratification from big things while women get gratification from little things is so important to the current quarantine situation. How can a little thing to us, for example, something like taking out a trash, right? Be a big thing in a man's world so that we can actually get him to help us and to get it done, right? So how can we turn something that is small to hit in his head into something that is big? Why being upset or grumpy doesn't work with a man and hence doesn't change his behavior. And I know you guys, I mean, if you're like me, this is the first instinct, right? To just be upset or to show how unhappy you are. But the reality is it doesn't change anything. He just thinks that you're crazy. And so she talked about that and also how to change it, how a man thinks and how women can use this understanding to get her needs met. How can we get our husbands to help more around the house and the kids? We talked a little bit about the language of heroes, which is a concept from the Queen's Code, and why the attitude of communicating these words matters more than actually just saying and verbalizing them. She also mentioned the hierarchy of instincts and how we can use it to understand the men in our lives, how to communicate with the men in a way that registers as important. Super, super powerful concept. And then at the end, she gave some really powerful examples of scripts to communicate with men, to actually get your needs met and get him to help out more. And at the end, we're kind of wrapping this up with what does it mean to be his neck? And you will hear more about this example that I've learned. I think I shared here on the podcast. It's something that the rabbi taught me about how in a relationship, in a marriage relationship, the man is the head, but the woman is the neck, and the head cannot move anywhere without the neck. And so we actually talked about what it means to be a neck and how to shift from being a nagger and a beggar to his queen. And I think this is something you want. I think it's something I want, and I bet you this is something your partner, your husband, even if you are not married and you don't have a partner, but even if it's your son, that's what the men in our lives want from us. They want us to be and feel like a queen, as opposed to being this annoying and extremely upset and unsatisfied woman. All right, so this episode is jam-packed with information that is super, super important, and I hope this is going to serve you. Please let me know what you think. Find me on Instagram by @DoritPalvanov Coaching. Let me know what you think, and enjoy listening. All right, enjoy. Bye.
All right. Hi, Alison. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here.
I'm so excited for this conversation. It's been a long journey of me, setting this up. So I'm super excited. As of this recording, we are in week 10 of quarantine, and my kids and husband are well put away to help me create the space for this conversation. I'm really excited.
Beautiful.
So tell me, how are you doing? How are you doing during these crazy times during quarantine?
How am I doing? I'm doing really well. I got to experience the virus, so I feel like I have an intimate relationship with this thing that this is all about. It was brief. I spent 3 days when I wasn't well. And but I spent 26 days in isolation, and I live in an isolated place, right? I live outside of a town of 249 people, and I've loved it. I've loved the quiet, the silence, the solitude. It's been amazing to me, and I've also had a chance to help a lot of people. Because, whether you're staying in place or you're stuck in place, the conflicting instincts of men and women are really been activated during this time. And
yes.
So I've just got a chance to talk to so many of them and help them with our information, and it's actually been really enlivening.
Yeah, that's the reason actually I wanted to have you on, because in my community, among my clients and among my past clients and just, women around me, this is, if women were kind of whispering before the pandemic about men not showing up equally in the home and with the kids, now women are screaming. It's loud.
Yeah.
And so I'm excited to dive into this today with you. But before
we can make a difference in those expectations.
For sure. So before we go there, just to give people the context and understanding of who you are and, how did you even end up researching men? Can you take us a little bit back and share your backstory? How did this exploration of men begin for you?
Oh boy. You said you've read the Queen's Code, right?
I did, yes. Well, I'm halfway through, but I know your work.
You're
I just want the listeners.
Yeah. I was just checking. So, the Queen's Code is fiction, and how it got written is its own spiritual story. But what happens in the beginning with Kimberly happened to me. Mm-hmm. My friend was called a frog farmer, and a woman who brings out the worst in men and turns princes into frogs. And when she was called that, she just rejected it outright. And I actually was excited about it, because I tried to change men for a long time and unsuccessfully. And I had really come to despise them. I questioned whether they had souls, actually, and they're definitely lesser humans than women. And the idea that I was doing something that was having me see the worst in them and not get to experience the best of them was really exciting to me, because that meant I could do something about it. Because alternative was it just men were jerks, but I wanted one, right? I wanted. So it's really, really, really cool when the idea that I could find out what I was doing, that maybe they were responding to me, and then I could change the stimulus. And I started with the question in 1991, what if men are responding to women? And I was really glad it was worded that way, because I wasn't out to prove that men were responding to women. I was just curious. And so I got to find out a bunch of ways that men are responding to women and a bunch of ways that they're not responding to women, that things we take personally have nothing to do with us. So many of the things we take personally. Mm-hmm. And in fact, we have it pretty much opposite. The things we should take personally, we don't. We think they're just a jerk. We don't know we had anything to do with it, that our words or our tone of voice or our attitude or the look on our face or our body language had everything to do with how you responded. And that there's things that men do that have nothing to do with whether they love us or care about us or respect us or admire us or think we're beautiful or wonderful or attractive. They're things that they do because that's what they've got to do. Their priorities, their instincts, their values, their what they consider a duty. They've got to do that. It has nothing to do with us. So that's how it all began. And I really thought it would take 2 or 3 months to find out everything that was worth knowing about them. And it'll be 30 years in February, and I'm still fascinated. And I didn't mean to study women, but every time I learned something about men that surprised me, which was, about every 10 days, I'd be like, why didn't I see that before? Why don't people know that? Oh, because women are like this. Women do this for this reason. So I didn't mean to study women, but by inference, I ended up having done that.
Yeah. When you say that, it gives me so much validation, because since I got married, I have that kind of like intuitive knowing that in the relationship between men and women, it's the man who responds to the woman and not the other way around. And so that in my marriage and in my, parenting and in everything that I do that is related to my relationship with my husband, there is just this kind of learning to live with the fact, but also the responsibility that we have as women in this setup. Right. So, I was thinking about the fact how you've decided to name the book The Queen's Code, when in fact the content is about understanding men. So I was thinking, like, why didn't she call it King's Code? So can you talk about why is our identity as a queen wrapped around figuring out his kingship first?
Interesting question. Well, the Queen's Code means a couple of things, and one is secrets. Queens know secrets about men and what motivates them that allows them to be influential with men and served by men, and in a beautiful way. But it also means a code of honor. And a code of honor is not something women normally traffic in. But it's something that my customers and students create. I've gotten to observe women literally define their own code of honor, meaning what they decide is the right thing to do, no matter how they feel. And that's what being honorable means to a man, that you do the right thing no matter how you feel. And those feelings could be you do the right thing no matter, even if you're afraid, or you do the right thing even if you love somebody, that you still do the right thing regardless of loving them, regardless of being afraid, regardless of being fill in the blank. You do the right thing. And it's especially challenging for us as women because our feelings connect us to the eternal. And so we trust our feelings to tell us the right thing. So to do the right thing no matter how we feel, when we trust our feelings to tell us the right thing, that gets really tricky. And it helps to distinguish between feelings and emotions.
Yeah.
Feelings stay in the same place. Emotions, someone defined it as energy in motion. If it's moving around, it's an emotion. If it's a feeling, that's different. And so doing the right thing, no matter how we feel, being honorable, is something that women can be. It's never been a focus. It's a focus for men. They're raised with that. Most of them. We're not. And so when women give up justifying diminishing men, what we would call giving up the right to emasculate men, when women give it up and actually define special circumstances, right? Like I give up the right to emasculate men, especially when I'm angry with them. That we don't justify diminishing a man just because we're angry. No, even when I'm angry, I give up the right to take him out. So the Queen's Code is a code of honor, and if you don't understand what has men do what they do when they do it, then as long as we're judging them through the eyes of what a woman would have done, what a perfect woman would have done, that justifies our diminishing them, which is what turns them into frogs. So if we don't understand what motivates men, we actually end up not being able to be queens.
Yeah.
Because when a woman is doing everything for herself, her self-sufficiency will actually prevent her from being the best version of herself. If she won't allow herself to be protected and taken care of by the men in her life, she won't ever have the time and energy to be the person that she could be.
Yes. I'm so happy you said that. And I have to ask you this. I mean, I didn't ask you prior to that, and I don't know about your religious beliefs or spiritual beliefs, but I'm just curious, how much of this work is rooted in the Bible or scripture? That story of Adam and Eve, it's just screaming at me how much it's so similar.
Well, I am spiritual. I won't even add an adverb or an adjective. I just am. That's the root of my life is my relationship. I call it God, and I mean, if you were to wander around my house, you'd find a sticky that says, "Thank you, God, for having me be whatever you need me to be to get your work done."
Yeah.
And that's it's the root, it's the core, it's the essence, it's the source.
Yeah.
It's not an everyday thing, it's an all day thing. Yeah. And there's a I forget who said it. I don't know scripture, but I have a dear friend who is a priest, and so I'm learning scripture. And I forget who was it said, pray always. And so that's what I'm working on. I'm working on praying always. And the Queen's Code and Keys to the Kingdom, I don't experience having written them. When I sat down to write Keys to the Kingdom, I had an outline, and then when I began, a movie screen opened up into the, in front of my right eye, and the characters in the book just started doing what they were doing, and they surprised me. They surprised me with their personalities. Since Keys of Kingdom is from 4 different points of view, it surprised me to be inside their heads, to see their blind spots. And I didn't there are things in that book that I knew there was something special about the table, for example, that shows up in the Queen's Code as well. But I didn't know what was special about the table until one morning I woke up and realized that the character Karen was going to see the table today. And like, well, so will you show me the table? Mm-hmm. And then I saw the table. The day that she saw the table, I saw the table. And at the end of writing Keys to the Kingdom, I was like, okay, the book is done. But what's the name of your book? Just like ask God, this is your book, what's it called? And, within seconds, I got an answer, Keys to the Kingdom. Okay, then. And this is part of my life, right? It's mystical, it's magical, and I literally, because of always, thank you, God, for having me be everything I need to be to get your work done. It's weird to call it a talent, but I basically can do whatever I need to be. Is there for me. So I walk up on stage, any size audience. Always that's my prayer, and then I am whatever I needed to be.
Yeah, this is where trust. Yeah. This is where trust happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have tremendous faith that I don't really think of as faith, because my life is it's so full of evidence, right? And but it's sort of in answer to your Adam and Eve question, I started studying men, like I said, from my own point of view of, how am I bringing out the worst in them? And then as I learned more and more about them, I started cataloging the characteristics that I was identifying. And then as I learned more about women and how complementary women and men can be if we understand our instincts and understand how to adapt to each other. And at one point I just went, you know what, this is too perfect. It's too perfect. This isn't something doesn't evolve this perfectly. and that was the first time that I was like, okay, interesting. There's a design here. And since I'm not religious, right, that I was suspect about that. And can I tell you a story from a book I never published?
Please. Yeah, please.
So I was driving home one night, and I just asked, so when is the next book going to start? Right? I'd written Keys to the Kingdom. I hadn't written Queen's Code yet. And I said, so when's the next book going to start? And this voice starts talking in my head, like right in my forehead. And it's Morgan Freeman's voice.
The God.
And the voice says, good morning, Adam. Good morning, Eve. It's good to be with you. Please take a seat. We have a lot to accomplish. I'm like, what? And so Adam says, who are you and what's this? And he's like, well, you can call me Sam, and I am from Research and Development, and I guess you could call this the education of Adam and Eve. And Adam's like, aren't you kind of late? And the voice says, well, then you can call it the belated education of Adam and Eve. And so that became the name of the book. And so Sam is explaining to Adam and Eve about how they were designed to work together, and then there were some improvements that God wanted to make to the design, and so there's some major changes they made, and so Sam's there to brief Adam and Eve on these changes that they made so they can be in partnership, and finally Adam just blows up and he says, why do you keep talking about design and created, and why do you keep saying that? Haven't you heard of evolution?
Mm.
And Sam's like scratching his head going, no, actually I haven't, but I'll look into that and get back to you. And Adam's like, yeah, seriously, dude. And then the next chapter, this is so cool. Okay. Sam says, all right, so I checked into evolution, and I now I understand what it is that you're talking about and that you're upset about. But I just have to say, there's no conflict between creation and evolution if you're an artist. And Adam's like, what are you talking about? And he said, well, every artist knows that creation is an evolutionary process, and God is the ultimate artist, and human beings that keep being tweaked and improved upon. He keeps seeing new things that are possible, and he keeps altering his creation. And Adam's like, no, those are just mutations. Science can explain that. Those are just mutations. Yeah. And Sam says, and this is all happening in my head, by the way. This isn't me thinking. This is Sam talking. And Sam says, just because you have a fancy name for an effect doesn't make it a cause.
Boom.
Ooh. Ooh. So, yep.
I love that. For me, when I started studying the Bible, and it's so interesting. Yesterday, my rabbi, we had the Bible study, and there was a group of women, and we were studying the story of the creation of the woman. And he was talking about how the reasoning for creating the woman for Adam was, so in Hebrew it says, Lo tov heyot Adam levado. It means it's not good for the man to be alone. So I will create, in Hebrew it's called ezer kenegdo, meaning I will create help against him, a helper against him. And so that's interesting, right? So it's a helper, but it's against him.
So in partnership, we would call that productive resistance.
Yes. And the reason I really wanted to have this conversation with you is because, and I have these conversations with women all the time. For us, I feel like it's time for us as women to really come to a resolution with this responsibility that we have. When I got married, I remember that also the rabbi telling me, he said, Dorit, always remember that your husband is the head, but you are the neck. And like, this is what the Queen's Code is for me, right? Like, the head cannot turn anywhere without the neck. So I just think it's really brilliant, and it resonates so much with, everything that the scripture says in the Bible. And when you tell me that you've downloaded this information, I believe you, because it sounds like it. Like, the writing is brilliant, the storyline is phenomenal, and just the way the characters are kind of like intertwined in each other. Like, I think it's just beautiful, a beautiful work of art. Really well done. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
Okay, so
I just surrendered again and again and again.
Yes, which is a very feminine quality. Okay, so let's talk about what the listeners actually want to hear, beyond me, getting validation for my own for my own thoughts. So all of us are quarantined with our partners and our kids 24/7 in each other's faces. And there's just, it's a lot. I mean, it's a very kind of complex situation. And it's, it's interesting because on the one hand, I'm so grateful for this opportunity to finally just be us and just do us and really like immerse ourselves in us. But at the same time, it's like, can I just be alone? Can you just leave me alone? Can somebody please take those kids? Can somebody please just borrow my husband? And so it's this kind of like duality. So
Yes.
I want to talk to you about emasculation, castration, as a skill that I think all of us women are born with, or maybe we pick it up. I don't know. I think we're born with because we are descendants of Eve. How can you talk a little bit about how we do it? Why so much of it is, even for me, you know, as I'm reading the book, I'm realizing that, you know, a lot of it is actually not, it's not even conscious, Alison. Like a lot of it is, it's really subconscious for me. I didn't even know that I was doing those things. So let's talk about that. And then we'll talk about, you know, how to actually get them to help out.
Yeah. Well, can I do that a little bit in reverse and weave them together?
Sure, of course. It's up to you. Sure.
Okay. I think it'll work better. So I end up with this mix of spirituality and biology, and I'm my own biological experiment. I use bioidentical hormones, and I've been able to affect my own mood and thought patterns and my relationship to my own feelings and focus, and it's been spectacular, like, because I studied it for so long and then I got to experience it at the physical level. And the easiest way to think about it for people is that, you know, we're pickled. When we're in the womb, we're pickled in either estrogen or testosterone. And we have levels of those hormones equivalent of an adult when we're a little tiny thing, huge amounts of these hormones, and they shape our brains. And it creates what we call hunting mode and gathering mode as a structure in the brain. And one of the biggest problems I'm seeing with the quarantine or stay at home or stuck at home is that diffuse awareness, which has a person be aware of. Diffuse means to pour in every direction. So one of the things men don't understand about women is that most of us are aware of the physical and mental and emotional and even energetic states of everything in our environment. Every living thing in our environment is registering in our consciousness. And inanimate objects are registering in our consciousness, principally because if you think of millennia of being gatherers and going into a meadow, we had to notice everything about the meadow because, like, say something was out of place, right? How did it get there? Who moved it? Did a bear move it? Where's the bear? Right? So just that something's not where it's always been is perceived as a threat. And so if for example you get to be home alone and then suddenly you're home with other people all day and children, and they keep moving things and they keep leaving things where they shouldn't be left, right? So everything keeps being out of place. And some of us, like me, have had children who you could always tell where the child has been because there's a trail of crumbs, right? They do things there and then they leave it behind and they go someplace else and do something else and they leave it there. And all of these little things register in our consciousness and disrupt our peacefulness, if you will. And this is what makes all these little things demanding to be done, and it makes doing little things have an instant gratification to it. So the sock on the floor that he stepped over 12 times is yelling at us that it's out of place, it gets picked up and put away, in the laundry or wherever. That's a little bit of peace.
Mm-hmm.
Straightening a pillow. The pillow isn't yelling anymore that it's crooked. And if we find it to be a beautiful pillow, we have a little moment of connection with that beauty, right? And that's gratifying. And the trash being taken out, and whether it's the smell or that it's overflowing and it might make us feel overwhelmed, the trash being gone. Space. There's space. I can be in my kitchen. All the trashes are empty. Or I can be in my bedroom because the bedroom's made. It's neat. It isn't demanding anything of me. So this is one of the biggest things that men don't understand about women, is why all the little things matter. And so that's why in our Understanding Women course, that's one of the things that I'm up to, is having them understand why all these little things matter, and that ultimately why they matter, if you dig deep enough, it has an impact on her safety, right? Why is that out of place? Was it a bear that moved it, right? And it makes her feel safe or unsafe. It makes her feel peaceful. It allows her to just be herself. Now, because all these little things impose on our awareness, our environments have so many things that need to be done. And now we have a man home. He could help us. He could do some of these little things. Why is he sitting there doing nothing? It's obvious there's so many things to do, and he's doing nothing.
Or he's watching TV, or he's going to work out when when all these things need to be done.
Yeah. We're sure they need to be done. And that's the mistake that we make, Dora, is to us, the trash needs to be taken out. The trash has a need. These things have their own needs. They need to be done. Well, this is one of the things that we need to take personally. Men don't see a sock as having a need to be picked up. They don't see a need in a trash can, that a trash needs to be taken out. Inanimate objects have no needs. A mechanical thing may have a need, which means a requirement. Like, the car needs the oil to be changed, or it's going to stop functioning, right? So to them, it's all about function, right? So the thing that we don't understand about men in hunting mode is they don't want to go out and catch 100 rabbits. They don't get any gratification out of catching a rabbit. They could go visit their traps and come home with a brace of rabbits, enough to feed their family for a week. Okay. But really, they're organized around the elk, the woolly mammoth, big things. So women get gratification from little things, for the most part. Men get gratification from big things. And once you understand that, then you can start going, well, what makes something a big thing? Right? What makes something a big thing? And someone I love, Derek Robbins, is Tony Robbins' son, and just fascinated by relationships, and a student of mine for many years, just on his own, devouring everything I've ever done. And he got it. He got it. That what seems to him like a little thing adds up to a big thing. That if he washes the dishes and cleans up the kitchen before he goes to bed, he has a different wife the next morning. He has a favorite version of her. If he doesn't do it, who she becomes with how loudly that's speaking to her, he gets a different wife. So to him, it's not doing dishes. It's not this little thing of doing dishes and this little thing of cleaning the kitchen and this little thing of this and all these little things that go into it, and you have to clean this and you have to put away that and you have to do this and all that. No, it's not that to him. It's all worth doing because it produces this big result of who his wife is the next day. So that's a lot what is and why the Queen's Code matters, right? What has a little thing to us be a big thing in their world? And unfortunately, our instincts have us think that the more upset we are about something, that's what will make it a big thing. And so we get really upset, and we make sure they know how upset we are that they didn't take out the trash, thinking if they know how upset we were that they didn't do that, they'll make sure to do it. Nope. Nope. Us being upset does not make something a big thing in their world. It just has them think we're ridiculous that it's such a big thing in our world. What has something become a big thing in a man's world is the impact of it, the effect of it, the peace that Jarek is able to bring out of his wife. That's the big thing in his world by doing a bunch of the little things in her world. And that makes him worth doing. And so being at home and having a husband who may have more time on his hands than usual, being able to communicate to him the difference he can make for you matters. And being able to communicate in his language is what we teach in the Queen's Code and in Understanding Men. But it requires that we stop and actually we have to have some moments of discernment. And we have to, you know, I live on 3.5 acres. An acre and a half of it is in hay that I put in. The rest is dirt, rocks, and weeds. Seriously, dirt, rocks, and weeds. And there's so many little things to do just outside the house. And then there's inside the house, right? Tons of little things to do. The list could go on, pages and pages. But I had a friend come visit, and he wanted to know, do you have a project we can do? And so I had to stop and sit down and think, okay, he leaves on Tuesday. What will make the biggest difference in my life? That's what he's going to want to do. What will make the biggest difference? So I have to figure it out. What will make the biggest difference? And it's a way we have to train ourselves to think, well, what will make the biggest difference? What will have the most impact? What will provide the most for me? And what's interesting about it is when we communicate that in that way to a man who wants to be of help, because they do, and then he gets to do it without supervision. This is super important.
Yeah. And commenting
and
about what he does. Yeah.
You got to let go of him doing it your way. You want men to do things, stop. You have to stop. You have to catch the instinct that he's got to do it your way. And let him produce the results. And so to keep thinking about that and communicating that and then appreciating consistent with that. Not, oh, good, glad that's done. Here's the next thing. It has to be, wow. Do you know how long this is going to make a difference in my life? My friend and I corrected the way that I had planted a grove of aspens last summer. Just out of ignorance, we fixed it. Yeah. So what do I do? How do I keep appreciating him? I send him pictures of the aspens because they're ecstatic about the work that he did, the little wells that he made for them and how moist and all the water they get to hang on to instead of it draining away. And they're all green and leafy and just crazy just 2 days after he left. And so it's a gift he keeps giving to me. And so it's a gift I keep receiving and appreciating him for. And that's one of the key things we have to know. Anything you stop appreciating, they'll stop doing.
Yeah.
Anything
it really
you keep
resonates.
appreciating, they'll keep doing. And they'll actually generate it. Anything you keep appreciating, they'll start generating, doing.
Okay, so then
Grace got to the point of
totally. But I have to ask you this.
You want to say something?
Yeah, I have to ask you this because I know the ladies are thinking this. This is how women think right now. Oh my God, I am exhausted on top of my own full-time work schedule because, women work from home now. I now have to homeschool and I have the household. And this guy has the tenacity to go into the bedroom, close the door, get his 8 hours in without even thinking that, the kids. So the word that women use is without even considering, that kids need to be fed and they need to be played with. And I also have my work to be done. Right. So, yes, we kind of assume that they don't care. So my question for you is, how can we, I guess because the time is really kind of like, we're really all compressed for time. Understand, definitely all the women listening, you must read the Women's Code. You must.
I mean, the Queen's Code?
What did I say? Women's Code? Oh, I'm sorry. Queen's Code.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is a book, a Women's Code too. I have that book too. Yes, I meant the Queen's Code. Yes. I'm sorry. Definitely, you have to read it, because in the book, you actually have scripts and you have the framework, and it's just so beautifully laid out. And there's a story about it. And I love that you've written it as a fiction as opposed to nonfiction, because a story resonates and registers much better, as opposed to, like theory. So can you
we learn better that way.
Sorry?
I think we learn better through stories.
Yes, we learn better. Yeah, totally. So can you maybe help the ladies, maybe give us some ideas in terms, like, how can we communicate? What are the words in the book? You talk about the language of heroes. One of these words is the word provide. So actually to use these words. So can you maybe help us with the languaging? Which words do we need to use in order to, encourage them and actually get them excited to give to us and to help us with the house and to make the things that matter to us? And those are lots small things. I mean, those kids are ours. It's not just my kids, right? So how can we do that?
Okay, I'm willing at a limited level to talk about the words, but only limited, because where we're coming from and using the words matters more than the words. And there's a tremendous danger in that where we're coming from will actually make our lives worse by using such potent words with the wrong attitude. So please, anyone who's listening, either read the Queen's Code like your life depends on it, or if you don't want to read something, go to understandmen.com and do the Understanding Men course. 15 hours of videos there, right? So do you want to read? Do you want to have videos? And they're both unique in their own ways, and there's information in the Understanding Men course that I didn't put in the Queen's Code on purpose. And one of the most important words, because I didn't trust. Like, if a woman doesn't read this, like her life depends on it, she can't have the most important word. But where the word provide comes from is from what I call a hierarchy of instincts, which is procreate, then protect, then provide. And so mostly women want men to provide. But when they say no to us, it's because they're protecting something, like their energy. And so we get hurt. We think they said no because they don't care. No, they said no because they're protecting something. So when you understand that you have a warrior and a hunter on your hands, you have a protector and a provider on your hands, then the next step is to realize that what's obvious to you is not obvious to him. So when I first started studying men, before I started studying men, I thought men either A, didn't care about what I needed, or B, were actively withholding it. Those were my only two choices. They didn't care, or they were withholding it on purpose to punish me. And what I found out was that men were trying all the time to give me what I needed. But it was based on them assuming that I needed what they need, which is what women do too. Women try to give men what women need, and men try to give women what men need.
Mm-hmm.
So I found out men were paying attention to what I needed. They were trying to give me what I needed all the time. But they actually didn't know what I needed. It was what they thought I needed. And so my first responsibility was for me to tell them what I needed in a way that they could understand it, which meant I had to figure out what I needed. So this goes back to, of all those little things that are going on, what's the most important? There's some things you got to let go. You got to sit down. We have to sit down with our partners and go, okay, during this period of time, let's align on what matters the most, and that everything else we're going to let go. And from my point of view, what matters the most is you get what you need to accomplish your work. I get what I need to accomplish my work. And our kids get what they need to accomplish their work. That could be it. And that we have fun while we're doing it and we enjoy each other's company. Those are the things I want to pay attention to. So what I need you to protect for me, honey, I can't do all of this or any of this if I don't get enough sleep. I need your help. I need you to protect my sleep. I know you're naturally protecting yours, and I'm glad you are because you would be a bear to live with, but I need your help in protecting mine.
Hmm.
Oh, I didn't
that's
know
a
you needed
powerful, yeah, it's a powerful request. It's
that.
like, how can you say no to that?
They figure we're staying up because we want to stay up. They don't realize we're staying up because all these things are nagging us to do them before we go to bed. Honey, how you could protect my sleep is help me get the kids in bed at night, and then take me with you. Don't just go to bed. I will be stuck out here with my mind telling me I have to clean everything when I don't. Take me by the hand and bring me to bed with you after we put the kids to bed. Are you willing to do that? And is there anything you need from me to be willing to do that?
I love that.
Well, yeah. And then he might say, well, I go to bed when I do, so I make sure I get some alone time, because otherwise I will be a terrible person. Okay, so alone time goes on the list of things you need to be able to be you and get your job done. You know what? I actually need alone time too. Maybe we could start with that, providing alone time for each other, trading out who's being with the kids so that each of us gets the alone time we need. How much alone time do you need? I mean, we've only been married for 15 years, but I can't answer that question. Right? And when do you most need it? Right? Greg and I, we were together for 28 years, and it took us a long time. And then we had to make an adjustment when we changed. But we actually worked out. He would get his alone time in the morning because he woke up really early, and he didn't want me to wake up and come out and be with him. And then I got my alone time because I'd wake up and not come out and be with him. So he would know to don't come back. Don't come back until I text you. I'm having alone time. Once you leave the bedroom, I get to be alone. I'll let you know when you can come back for a snuggle. And so we ended up honoring and providing for each other alone time, which is, it's one of the most important things that people need, but it's got to happen at the right time, right? And it has to have the right quality. Some people, their alone time, they need to get out of the house, be alone out of the house. Some people, their alone time is, I want to be home alone. Take the kids to one of the parks that's open, or someplace go for a drive. Take the kids for a drive. We're still allowed to drive around for no reason. Take the kids for a drive. Don't come back for 2 hours. 2 hours? Yeah, 2 hours. I needed 2 whole hours. You come back before then, you're not going to like who I am. You come back after then, I'm going to be a dream.
Yeah.
So we have to be very specific.
Yeah. I think I know you need to go soon, so I don't want to take too much of your time, but I think we can just leave it at that. And ladies, this is what being the neck means. It means you need to own your role as the neck. And yes, it's shift from being the nagger and constantly reminding to owning responsibility and saying, this is just the way we are created. This is how we're built. And this is my job to make this house work.
Yeah.
To,
Well, and I like you saying the neck, because it's it's something that Claudia talks about in the Queen's Code and Keys of the Kingdom, that our job is to turn the head. Our job is to say, honey, pay attention to this.
Yeah.
This is what matters. This is what our kids need the most.
Making it big. Yeah.
Yeah.
Love that.
Thank you so much. It was
thank
so
you.
great to be with you.
I know you have to go, but do you want to tell people where they can find you and connect with you?
Yeah, you can go to understandmen.com. That's where all our stuff is. Books and free stuff and our online courses. That's the easiest thing to do, is just to go there.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This has been so much fun. And I know this is an important concept for women. And thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for the books, for the resources, for your perseverance in figuring this out for yourself and also for me. And for my daughters. I have 3 girls. So this is definitely.
Gosh, you're welcome.
This is their wedding gift.
Thank you, Dora.
Thank you so
That's
much.
awesome.
Be well.
Okay. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.
Wait, before you go, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and if you did, I want to know about it. So snap a picture of you listening to this episode and share it on Instagram or Facebook. On Instagram, you can tag me at Dorit Palvanov Coaching. So Dorit is spelled as D-O-R-I-T and Palvanov spelled as P-A-L-V-A-N-O-V Coaching. So it's all one word. Or you can use the hashtag Confident, Energized, and Sexy Mama Podcast. You see, my personal goal beyond having amazing conversations with guests or hosting solo episodes is to increase the visibility for this platform and these messages to be shared and heard by women who need it the most. And there's no way that I can do this on my own. So I'm asking you, the incredible community of confident, energized, and sexy mamas, to help me with this goal. So whether you're coming to me through iTunes, Stitcher, Spotify, wherever you're listening to the show from, please rate, review, and subscribe to the show. This would mean the world to me, and it's so helpful for other mothers who are looking for this information. So thank you so much for listening, and I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.